and welcome back to the Stitch Goddess podcast. This is episode 2. My name is Elizabeth, and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Elissa Pack. Show notes for this episode will be on my blog, which is thestitchgoddess.com. Thank you for joining me. It's lovely to have you with me today. I have made a lot of progress in the last 2 weeks on a whole number of projects, and I'm really excited to share them with you today. One of the things that my local yarn quilt shop, which is Atomic Fibers here in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, they have a challenge per month. And in January, the challenge was to tidy your sewing space or your crafting space. And so I spent 2 days reorganizing, prioritizing everything, and putting everything into a place where I can actually see what I have. So fabric and batting, all sorts of things are now out in the open where I can see them, and they're displayed in a way that I think makes them look really pretty, and it makes me want to spend more time in my sewing room, and it's really, really enjoyable in there now. It makes me so happy to be in there. But I've worked on quite a number of projects, and let's get started. So the first thing that I want to share is this is the Ronin cardigan, which I showed last time, and it looks really funny right now because I'm knitting the collar and it's all bunched up on a 40-inch cable. I think it's 40 inches, yes. And it's really, really tight. Now, what you have to do when you do this kind of collar is you pick up and knit the stitches, you add them on, and go from there. And the instructions said to pick up and knit 301 stitches from the right of the cardigan all the way around. And I did that on the wrong side. Ugh. What I ended up doing, instead of reading it as the right front of the cardigan, I read it as the right of the cardigan as you were looking at it. So I I added those stitches on this side, and then I realized as I read the instructions that I was on the wrong side. So I had to very carefully use my left hand to pull out the stitch and then pick up the stitch in the same place all the way around because it's not even. So you had to pick up 88 stitches from there to about there on the cardigan, and it wasn't an even number. There aren't 88 rows right there. So that took a while. And if you're curious how long it took 53 minutes and 56 seconds. I timed it. But it's going really, really well right now. You can see on the back, there's lots of short rows. So the collar, it's a shawl collar style edge, and this got built up really, really quickly. It went a lot faster than I thought, and now I'm just going back and forth. The only problem that I'm having is my needles, and these are the Addi Click Turbo, probably the lace needles. They have a nice fine point, but this join right here is atrocious. As I'm trying to work with the yarn, it gets stuck and caught on that particular spot. And I don't know if you can hear that when you're actually trying to slide the stitches forward. It catches on that join, and it sounds like it's ripping the yarn. So I'm gonna try to keep moving forward on that, and hopefully it won't annoy me to death. But it's annoying. But the light is coming at the end of the tunnel with this one. I think it's coming very, very soon. The amount that I have left to do is a little more than double of what I have for the existing shawl part. And then I do some pockets, and then that'll be finished. So I'm really looking forward to that. I am using the Brooklyn Tweed Shelter yarn in the Homemade Jam colorway, and it is a very nice, airy, stiff, kind of woolly yarn. And one of my favorite things about it is it maintains its shape in the bowl in its cake form. And so this is sort of another way of playing sort of yarn chicken to see how long it will keep its cake shape. I entertain myself greatly when I knit. So another work in progress is the Dunalister Mystery Shawl, and I was just going to knit a few rows when the last clue came out on January 26th. Just gonna do a few rows. The clue came out, it was only 22 rows, and I managed to finish that in one night. So if you are doing the Dunalister Mystery Shawl and you have not yet seen clue 1, 2, or 3, look away. Here it is. It's getting really big. I love these cables that are on the spine. I've never done quite so many cables in such an intricate format, but I really, really like that. And now there are more cables that are showing up in the side, this time in the neutral color, the white color. Everyone has different colors that they've chosen from what I can see on the Ravelry board for this, but oh, I can't wait to wear this. This is really, really soft. And I think it's going to block out really nicely because it has lots of sort of squish to it. And it's made out of an alpaca merino blend. Really, really nice yarn from Unplanned Peacock Studios. So I'm very pleased with that. The other project that I cast on recently, which you saw the yarn being wound at the very beginning of this video, is this. These are the Tacit hand warmers by Hunter Hammerson. I've only done the first little section, the first sort of 15 rows, and then one additional section. And believe it or not, these little diagonal lines are all cables. They're just slightly offset from each other. So it's not like the Dunalister where the cables line up and twist. These kind of just slant one way and then they slant the other. So really, really interesting use of cabling, I think. So that's really interesting to me. I did knit up a swatch. I'm using Madeline Tosh Merino Light in the snake colorway, and I made a little swatch, and I'm thinking that I'm going to have to re-knit this. I'm using Lana Grossa needles in 2.5 millimeters. These are bamboo needles. I actually bought these needles in Delft on my honeymoon. I had a lot of time by myself in Delft because my husband got food poisoning, so he slept the entire time and stayed in bed the entire time that we were in Delft. Excuse me. And I wandered around and I was working on a project and I needed some needles, and I bought these in Delft. So a nice happy souvenir. And I thought these were going to be just the right size for this, but this seems like it's going to be awfully snug when I actually get these hand warmers done. I actually commented on, or I posted a picture on Instagram, and Hunter Hammerson, the designer, very kindly replied and commented and said that the rib is very, very stretchy, so it would stretch out. But when I did the swatch, I have close to 7.5 stitches per inch, and the highest number on the chart that she provides is 7. So I think what I'm going to do is do a second swatch, this time using a slightly larger needle. These are my Leica Driftwood 32-inch cabled needle, fixed cable needle. It's 3 millimeters. These needles are 2.5. So I think that might help, because on the chart, it goes from, I think, 5.5 to 6 to 7 stitches per inch, or maybe 6, 6.5 to 7 for that particular pattern. And this is what the Tasset hand warmers will look like. And I think they're really beautiful. I can't wait to, I think this is going to be a very quick project because it went very, very quickly. The other project that I have, the other thing that I wanted to say about these needles is I only have 4 of them. They usually come in a set of 5. I have 4 because as I was sitting down to swatch another project last summer, the needle was on my lap. It rolled off my lap onto a porch, and it's currently rusticating underneath the porch of the Middle Bay Farm in Maine. So that B&B got my needle. Oops. But I have 4, so I can still knit. I'm pleased about that. The 4th work in progress that I have is also by Hunter Hammerson. It is the Artifice Shawl, and I cast on and wound up the yarn and cast on, and I have done, I think, three completed repeats, and I'm just starting the 4th repeat, and I love this pattern. It's so pretty. The first repeat of the pattern was a little bit confusing because some of the notations were a little bit different from other patterns that I was working on. But what I really like, this comes from the Curls 2 book, and this is the pattern, and it basically shows you how the curl shawl will form. So you have sort of your straight edge, and this yellow block represents the repeats, and you just keep repeating. You've got this really pretty edge, and then at the top there's a finish. So this basically shows you the structure of the shawl and how it's going to form. And I'm really, really pleased with how this is working out. There's only 20 rows for each, for the entire pattern. So the 20 rows is the repetition, and then you just repeat that every single time as the shawl gets longer. I'm doing this particular shawl in the Dream in Color yarn in the Jilly base. This is 100% superwash merino wool, and this is the Tidal colorway, and I really, really love this color. And a little trick that I use, I have one of these little paper pop-up devices, and I find that when I have a pattern, if I need to reference it frequently, I can just sort of pop it into there and sit and knit and just look at what I'm knitting. Really, really handy. So I'm keeping that in a brand new project bag. This is from Little Skein in the Big Wool. This is the Longbourn shawl zip, and it's really big, has lots of space for the cake of yarn, your project, and it comes from Little Skein in the Big Wool. This is from Anne Valley. She's the maker and CEO, Chief Everything Officer, which I think is hysterical. So thank you very much, Anne. I love this. And on the inside, the books. It's full of books. So my Jane Austen action figure approves. Capital! She thinks it's great. So one thing that I noticed as I was winding up my yarn for these last 2 projects, they were both by Hunter Hammerson, and this is the Madeline Tosh, Tosh Merino Light in Snake. This is the Dream in Color Jilly in Tidal. They're very, very similar. This is going to make a really, really pretty set. And it will also go with something from my finished objects. This is what I was casting on last summer when I lost that needle. This is also by Hunter Hammerson. This is the Constellate hat. And it has this really beautiful long stitch that just makes it look like a flower or something. And I think it's just so pretty. This was also done in the Madeline Tosh Merino Light Snake colorway. And so I really wanted to get a hat and glove set. And it just so happens that this is going to be so complementary as the shawl. I'm not quite sure how matchy that's gonna look with I've got the hat, a shawl, and hand warmers. I might just need to make a pair of socks to go with it. But it's a really cozy hat. I really like this. It's very soft. And I think the color is really, really beautiful. So project bags are really new to me. In the past, I've used paper bags most of the time because I had them all the time. They were always lying around, and I could pop my project in there and hang it on a doorknob or something. And I learned to do that because one of my cats got into one of my projects many, many years ago, and that was the only way to keep her out of the yarn. She made a royal mess. It was terrible. But I have a lovely bowl. This was a gift from my mother-in-law, and I love it. I use it. The cardigan has totally overflowed this bowl, so it looks like a cardigan mess when it's in the bowl. But I found that this vase is just the perfect size for a cake of yarn. This is about 437 yards worth of yarn, but it works really, really well. Not so great for travel because it is glass, but if you are just moving around from one place to another in the house, it works really, really well. I have two finished objects from my sewing this week. One very successful, the other not quite so successful. Put that in bed. This is the Sunny Dress by Friday Pattern Company. This is the first garment in the Sew My Style 2018 Instagram challenge. And I used the Miss Monochrome Ponte di Roma fabric from Stitchy Bee. And you can still find this fabric at stitchybee.co.uk. This is a really, really soft knit. It's got some stretch to it. It's very, very, very comfortable. I did make the dress. The pattern comes, you can either make a top or a dress, and it has a sort of a scalloped hem, so it curves down at the bottom. It is a really, really nice pattern, very, very simple. Basically a front, a back, and two sleeves. This was my first project using a knit fabric. This is Ponte di Roma, Miss Monochrome from stitchybee.co.uk. Cheryl sent me some fabric, or I ordered some fabric, and I really, really like this. This is very, very comfortable. And it is a little bit sort of a body conscious style dress, so it is very clingy, and it's also just a little bit short for my particular taste, but it's very, very comfortable. I would definitely make this pattern again. I think I will make it into a top because I am needing several tops. And the only thing that I customized or modified was the length of the sleeve. It originally had much shorter sleeves, and I lengthened them to be 3/4, so they come down just right below my elbow, which is a very comfortable length for me. So very, very pleased with this dress. The other finished object, or it's almost finished. This is the Sew Over It Ultimate Shift Dress. And I've had this fabric for probably 10 or more years. And it's just a simple drapey polyester. Don't know what I bought it for. I had probably 4 yards of it, 4 or more yards, and I thought I would just make up an ultimate shift dress. And the pattern is lovely. It was very easy to make. I really like the detail on the back where you can kind of have either a little keyhole neckline in the back, sort of. And I think that I'm very pleased with how I made this. It just doesn't fit. And I'm really concerned about whether or not a shift dress, which the only shaping it has are 2 darts right here. And when I tried it on, my husband said it looked really awkward, like it didn't fit properly. So I don't know. I think that a wrap dress will be much more flattering to my figure. This makes for a really nice experiment, and I'm glad I made it, but I'm a little disappointed that it just doesn't suit my figure. Maybe it'll be one of those things where, oh, if I lose 50 pounds, it might fit. And then we'll see how it looks. But other than that, I'm happy I made it, but I'm a little disappointed that it didn't work. There's always a little bit of a disconnect between what I think I will look like wearing a particular garment and what I actually look like wearing a garment. So I have to be really honest with myself when I'm making things for myself to see if it's actually something that I'm going to wear and it's going to look good and I'm going to be comfortable in it. The sleeve modification on the Sunny dress is a perfect example. I really, really like a 3/4 length sleeve. I feel so much more comfortable in it, and even though I've made some other garments that have short, like cap sleeves, I think that the 3/4 length sleeve is something that I'm really drawn to. It just makes me feel so much more comfortable. So my last thing that I want to share is both a finished object and a work in progress. I am working on the Awesome Ocean quilt by Elizabeth Hartman. She's the pattern designer, and she has a whole bunch of quilts in this style where there's lots of different animals. There's a forest one, I think there's a desert one. She has some that are just all flamingos, or I think pineapples and whales, and this one is a project for my son, and I finished the whales last night. So I'm making the big quilt, so there are 8 whales, and I worked really hard to try to make sure that all of these pieces of fabric were all pointing the right way, because it would just look really strange if all of a sudden this middle piece had the pattern going up and down when everything else is going this way. So I have sort of an aqua whale, sort of a yellow whale. This one is, oops, backwards, hysterical because it looks like a Maori whale from New Zealand. I have some other creatures that are made with this fabric and they look hysterical. I have a green whale. The background of my fabric, the background of the quilt, is going to be this dark blue, and it's starting to all kind of come together where it really looks just like the depths of the ocean. So another sort of aqua wavy whale. And purple. I really like how I managed to get the swirls to line up on its tail. That was a miracle. And a bright green whale. And then probably my favorite, a blue whale, where I think this actually looks almost like a whale shark, some of the patterning on its tail. But I'm really pleased with how this is coming out. So there's a few more blocks that I have to finish that quilt off, and then sew all of the creatures together, and then sew it all into one top, and then get it quilted. I don't think I will be quilting that myself. I will have a professional do that for me. So that's everything that I have to share this week. Coming up, I'm going to be doing an episode solely on my 2018 challenge. So I hope you come back and enjoy that episode. But thank you for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye.